I might work on a project or two while we're doing this too. All right. And we are live. So hopefully everything is working correctly this time because work on a project or two while we're doing the last couple of live streams. I've had audio issues where it didn't capture the desktop audio for some reason out of the box. So I'm hoping that because I got here a little early today, a few minutes early to check all the settings, all the audio settings, everything's working. But I need one of you guys to speak. So good morning, good afternoon, something, so the YouTube chat can hopefully tell us if they can hear you guys.
Good morning. It is almost
Good
the end
morning,
of January.
everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone.
There you go.
I am totally not hijacking the stream right now because I'm currently working on getting Gentoo installed, you know?
Right.
To do this.
And let me go ahead and I did start the stream. I was so worried about the audio settings. I actually didn't get some of the scenes and everything set in OBS. So what have you guys been working on here in the last, it's been 5 weeks this time around since we did one of these streams. We had a little bit longer time between because the last week of December was actually kind of early. In December, it was like December 26th was the last Sunday, and then the last Sunday of January is pretty much the last day of January. So we, instead of the usual 4 weeks between, we had 5 weeks. What you been up to, Josh?
I have been slowly working on deciding what distribution I want to be running for the rest of the year, and of course, all roads lead back to Gentoo. So that's what I'm working on. Yeah. I've got it on 6 of my 17 machines so far. So that's what I've actually been spending my last 3 weeks on, is installing Gentoo on everything.
Yeah, I mean, it takes about 3 weeks to install Gentoo. So
on one system, I'm doing it on 17 here. Everything's going to Gentoo, including my VPS server.
That's a lot of downloads. You got good internet?
It's called you enable dist cc, and then you set up your monster of a home lab to do all the compiling for you.
Yeah. Okay. But you know what? You could just use a binary distribution. Even better, just a static release distribution where you just get an ISO and then you don't have to worry about it. You just
that is called cheating.
Yeah, that's true. It's too easy, right? Feels like cheating.
Yeah, we just have to secretly hate ourselves. That's really all it is.
That's my old adage. Linux should hurt a little bit.
Yep.
Linux isn't hurting, then it's not real Linux, right? Stefan, what have you been up to?
Well, besides the usual shenaniganeries at work, we've been digging up some ancient Raspberry Pi first release, RM version 5 chips. And we've installed ARM Arch onto it, and it's been a wonderful experience without any compiling nor whatsoever. And it worked straight out of the box. We're now using it as a reverse proxy for some scientific Jupyter labs we're hosting, and it's been a wild ride with a lot of Python and some shenaniganeries on Arch web servers, but it's been great actually. It's been a quite painless experience actually.
Wow. I mean, it's like the holy trinity, right? Arch, ARM, and Python, right? It's everything you could possibly want.
Yeah.
People have asked me about the ARM version of Arch. I've never actually installed it, mainly because I've always been a big fan of Manjaro ARM. I've installed it so many times and it just works. I've never actually, it's the Arch version of ARM. I know a few years back, it wasn't really like an official Arch project. Like it was Arch ARM, but it wasn't really the Arch guys developing. I don't know if it's now under the fold of being proper Arch or not.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
I still think it's an unofficial project. So
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it worked straight out of the box, like 160 packages, 40 megabytes of RAM.
No.
Easy, even on ancient hardware.
Well, I could see doing especially on a server, on an ARM server, doing Arch. But you're going to do like window managers, desktop environments. The Manjaro ARM edition is just. And the good thing about the Manjaro ARM edition is they have like 15 of them for different products. So they have ISOs for the Pi, for the Pine Book, for all these devices. So Jean-Michel, what have you been up to, sir?
As I mentioned earlier, first I moved my laptop from Debian to Arco. It was a little bit tricky for me to transfer all my information and settings from the Debian because there are still some few tools that doesn't work like Debian, but now it's working fine. And I also installed on the second drive on my main machine Arco Linux, so I will try on the main machine to learn more successively and maybe one day move completely to Arco. At the moment, maybe there's questions. Is someone of you knowing if the tool to convert Debian package into Arch package working well?
I have never personally tried it because I've never had a need to, because I've never actually found anything that was packaged for Debian that I couldn't find an Arch package anywhere for. So I've never actually tried it myself. I don't know if Josh or Stefan.
I have the problem that I'm doing some tax work, so as a second job for some people around, and the tax program from the region that is made by the cantons or the area where I live in Switzerland is only available as Deb or as RPM package.
Okay. Well, I know Arch. I'm pretty sure. I don't know about converting Deb to Arch package, but I know I've seen people mention that they've converted RPMs to Arch packages. Like there's tools to do that.
There's tools to convert RPMs to Debs and Debs to RPMs. That tool's called Alien, and that's actually maintained by the Fedora project proper. I think for unpacking Deb containers into an Arch package build, you would have to install D package on your system to be able to uncompress the Debian binary. But that's honestly something I would check like the AUR for, because that's how several AUR packages are actually installed.
Actually, just doing a quick search, Deb packages into Arch packages. I mean, I'm getting articles that explain how to do it. There's a tool called Deb Tap in the AUR. This article, those are 4 years old.
That would work. Ultimately, what you really need to be doing is git clone repo and compile it yourself.
Yeah, the problem is I have written an email to the guys that make the software for the tax authorities, and they don't want to deliver the source.
Of course not.
Yeah. Well, if it's proprietary software, you're going to run into issues where there's only so much you can do.
So I'm not sure. I was asking just to know if someone has experience, because I use DebTap and I transfer the package, so it looks like everything work on the first tape. But of course,
I'm going to share.
My question mark is after I made some tax report for people, if there is somewhere an error, then I will report wrong.
Well, I'm going to post a link in the YouTube chat, because there's probably people in the YouTube chat also that would be interested in this package in the AUR called DebTap, because that was the one that kept coming up in my Google search. It's a script to convert Deb packages to Arch Linux packages focused on accuracy.
Can you guys hear me?
I don't know. We got you, Big Bud. And just quickly, I had a super chat to Moonpad user. He says, "Have a nice day," smiley face. Appreciate that. I hope everybody's having a nice day. So it's a weekend. It's a Sunday here. Day to relax for me. Got some football I'm going to go watch this afternoon. The last games of the NFL season are today. So after today, all we have left is the Super Bowl. And then I've got to go 6-7 months without watching football. That's sad.
Well, I missed it because I was watching sports for the first 10 minutes.
It's understandable.
I was watching ski jumping.
Oh, you're watching the winter sports? Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Slovenia is good at that, so that's what I gotta watch.
Hi, guys.
that sounds like Ben Fitzpatrick.
It is.
Hey, Ben. Yeah.
Joining
How you
from
guys doing?
OpenBSD.
Ben is on OpenBSD.
I tried it and couldn't get the desktop working, so I said nope.
Smart person.
Yeah,
I don't understand why people try this, because they're trying to make something work that's just, it's never going to work. Like BSDs, maybe FreeBSD, but like NetBSD and OpenBSD, they're not designed to be a desktop operating system. You're just banging your head against a brick wall trying to make that thing work.
Don't tell Root BSD that.
He actually got that thing working with a GUI, and he tried to help me, and I'm like, yeah, let's just forget it.
Yeah. And I know, a lot of the BSD fanboys, some of them use it, but they have limited use cases for what they do on a computer. They're mostly developers. All they need is, if they can drop to a shell, that's all they use their computer for. OpenBSD is great for that. But then they want to know why the rest of the world doesn't use OpenBSD. Well, plug in a camera. Plug in a microphone. Like, plug in some peripheral devices. Do they work?
There goes Josh again with his Gen 2.
Right.
Oh, Jesus. It never ends.
No.
Just got installed on everything, bud.
Yeah.
I'm on 6 of 17 so far.
Oh, God, dude.
6 of 17. That's just getting started then, because there's going to be a whole lot more packages than 17 packages.
Yes, there will.
This is 6 of 17 installations, not packages.
Oh.
17 installs.
Why? Why? Then just make an image.
Well, the fun thing is, I set my license variable to GPL only, so it is my GPL. So everything that I'm downloading here is GPL licensed, which means that it is my new given right to say "fuck you." It's free and open source software. I'll do whatever I want.
You're crazy.
Gosh.
Now, I admire you for trying to do only free software on your Gentoo installations. But have you checked those 17 machines that you're installing to make sure that they can actually use strictly free software?
Well, you see, 12 of the 17. Actually, no, 10 of the 17 are Raspberry Pis. So, yes, you can, in fact.
Well, that helps you, because Raspberry Pi, of course, doesn't have any kind of BIOS or anything. So that
technically it does have BIOS, but it's a bit
it's not
different.
a real BIOS. Yeah, it's a different, the way they do it. People are always amazed the first time they see a Raspberry Pi. They plug it in, or all you do is just power it up, right? There's not even a power button. You plug it in and it just comes up.
Plug it in and turn it on.
There's no grub screen. There's no nothing. It just comes up.
Which it just means if they're amazed, they don't understand how computers work.
Yeah.
Simple.
Well, most people have no idea. I mean, all they know it's the device to connect to Facebook. And that's
We can be happy that computers, desktop and laptops have BIOSes.
Yeah.
We
can be happy about it.
By the way, I would, if my laptop that I installed Gentoo on recently didn't have, ignore the dog, but yeah, regardless, my new laptop that I got for Christmas has an NVIDIA card, so unfortunately I can't set the accept license to GPL only, unfortunately.
No, not with NVIDIA.
You have to have a sane license set.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to use the accept license equals star, or else
you're going to need proprietary drivers. You might as well just accept any license.
Yeah, that's what I always do anyways. Even if I was on an AMD graphics card or an Intel or something like that, because with these laptops and things, you never know what they're going to have. So it's better off just using the proprietary licenses anyway.
I want to answer a quick question here from the chat. Someone was asking, how can I resize a window in DTOS? So in Xmonad, assuming that's what you logged into, in any tiling window manager, it works the exact same way. All you need to do is right-click on the mouse on that window, and then just move the window. Like, that moves the window. To resize the window, what you want to do is you want to left click on the mouse and then hold the super key and then just drag the window around. So it's actually right click super key to move, left click super key to resize. And that's standard in every window manager I've ever used, tiling window managers especially, but even some floating window managers. I'm surprised how often that question comes up. That's not the first time I've gotten that question. Because most people that are used to a traditional desktop environments are used to just grabbing the corner of the window, but there's nothing to grab in a tiling window manager because there's no window decorations, no title bars. Yeah.
I think every single desktop environment you can do that with, except for like Enlightenment, because it's its own special case, and GNOME, where instead of it being the left or right mouse button, it's actually the middle mouse button for some strange reason.
They do that on purpose. GNOME just wants to make people mad.
Yeah.
They want to do something different. Enlightenment, I understand. Enlightenment's such an old project. They were doing this stuff before all these other environments existed, desktop environments, window manager. Enlightenment's as old as we are, practically. Right?
Yeah.
Just about. It's at least as old as OpenBox, because that's where it started.
Yeah. And something that's really frustrating about Lenovo is that with the laptop that I recently got, they said if I were to wipe Windows off of it, they will not support me.
Who was this? Lenovo?
Yes.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
I have a fun fact for you, Ben.
What?
That is actually technically not true, because as long as you can prove that what software you installed on that hardware did not actually cause the defect in the hardware that you would be dealing with, they legally cannot deny your warranty claim.
Yeah,
they legally can't, but he's asking about probably phone support and things like
I'm talking about
you're not going to get any support for an operating system that didn't ship on that device. That's standard for any device you buy. I mean, yeah. And even Linux devices. I mean, if you buy a Linux laptop from a company that's strictly
like System
putting Linux
or something like that,
and you put Windows 11 on it, don't call them and ask them about Windows questions, because you're asking them about stuff. That's not their problem.
If it was a hardware problem, then that's one thing. But if it's a Linux problem,
but even the hardware problem, if you put a different operating system on it and that hardware is incompatible, that's not their
speaking.
That's not their problem.
Right.
Reason they say that is because they actually have devices that are Linux supported, and for them, basically, they are saying that those devices are tested with Linux. Those devices should work. Other devices, if you install Linux on them, you're on your own.
Right.
The end of story.
That's true.
That's why they have devices that they sell with Linux. Those are the devices they test, and those are the devices they will support with Linux. Others, you're on your own. Sorry.
And then you've got operating systems that are only supported if they're on specific hardware, like Mac OS. They go to the point where you can't even install the operating system, on anything that's not a Mac computer, or you're not supposed to, right?
Well, you're not supposed to. I mean, you can do it, but it's not a good practice. I mean, in reality, if you want, like I've always told people, if you want a true Mac experience, don't do a Hackintosh.
Yeah. No, I've never understood why people did Hackintosh, because it's
like asking for trouble.
Yes, like if you need to run proprietary software, just run Windows. And like Windows is out there anyway. What are you gaining by going to Mac? Like
like my uncle always said, if you're gonna run a Mac, you're doing it for production reasons, and it's like. I mean, you're spending over $1,000 for.
Of course, it's different. It's different now. Than somebody was kicked.
Yeah, I don't know. Who
some people join and kick others for some reason.
Yeah, it's like a game.
Nah, well I recognize the names. They were patrons, so I don't know why they're kicking each other. But that's the issue with Jitsi. But I'd rather not use Zoom for this. But somebody was asking, by the way, in the YouTube chat.
Set up Jitsi, so
yeah.
But that's expensive.
It's one of those things.
And it's one of those things we only use it 2 hours a month.
Yeah.
I'd probably just use Zoom. As much as I'd rather not use proprietary software, we'd probably just switch to Zoom if we needed to not have the issues with the... Yeah, because at least then nobody would have control of the room except me.
Yeah, that's understandable, Derek. But yeah, like I was saying, I mean, Mac is just one of those niche things, and yes, I still have a slight use case for it, but in the end, it's really sort of a niche thing for me. But anyway, yeah.
Well, I understand why a lot of people did this like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Because
it was a cost thing.
Yeah, and also just the operating systems were different. Like maybe Mac did have some advantages as far as software in some cases over Windows, and it certainly had big advantages in the software department compared to Linux. But these days, like I'm not sure what you're really gaining with Mac compared to Windows or Linux.
You gain certain software that's still there that's not on Windows, like Logic Pro or
Final
Cut Pro.
But
that's all that there is. And there are some stuff that are better supported on Mac. But then if you actually need those for any kind of production reasons, and production to be defined as everything that is in development, staging, or testing, is you're gonna buy yourself a Mac Mini if you need, or a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro.
Yeah, well, the Mac
that's the real situation.
Yeah, you're right, Big Pot. I mean, the Mac Pro these days, it's $5,000 just for one of those.
Yeah, it is.
And honestly,
it's not good hardware. I mean, it's okay hardware, but I mean,
it's all server parts in the
But I mean, you could build the same machine for like $2,000 that you're going to pay $5,000 for. It makes no sense.
And then it would make a hell of a Hackintosh. Not gonna lie, but why would you put that operating system and spend all that work and then have a Mac OS update come in and then go? Because I mean, you would have to reconfigure the bootloader once that happens and all this other junk, and it's like, it's not worth it. Just put Linux or Windows on it, call it a damn day.
I know there's one niche case. I've been doing quite some IT for like artists and audio engineers. And they are usually the ones, but I want to have my drag and drop functionality that works with my proprietary MIDI whatsoever device. And in those cases, usually hardware, get it cheaper, splash a Hackintosh onto it, go with OpenRC, not Clover, and don't update it. And people are insisting on having their nice drag and drop functionalities. And
Open Core is the way of the future in a Hackintosh, unfortunately.
Or Open Core, actually,
Yeah, Clover is slowly just becoming deprecated, man.
Yeah, it is.
Well, at the end of the day, there is one reason you need a Mac if you are a developer. Because you want Xcode, and because you want to upload things to iOS Store or macOS Store. For that, you need a Mac. And that's one reason why I should just buy a random Mac Mini and that's it. That's all you need.
That's
really,
really in reality.
The best thing about the Mac is that at one point they literally made your trash can for you.
Well, I mean, they were the ones that invented the trash bin.
Isn't it a cheese grinder now?
Just like Microsoft Windows was the first group that created a automatic window tiling.
Yeah, people don't realize, just how amazed people were by some of the advancements of Macintosh back in the late 80s, early 90s. Like when you had that trash bin, like that was such a big advancement that Microsoft had to copy it in Windows 95 because, like Windows and Mac at one time were quite different. And now they're all operating systems kind of do the same thing. And a lot of that is because of how popular Macs were back in the day. Macs were seen as
the holy grail,
the go-to operating system. Like if you had the money, you'd buy a Mac because it's just better.
But now Linux has taken so many leaps forward and all this and that. And I mean, you can pretty much get almost the same killer functionality out of Linux,
Mm-hmm.
then you can out of most operating systems. Not everything, but
Now,
a good chunk of it.
The guy that got kicked from the room was messaging me. I think he's here now. Uvindu.
Welcome.
Yeah. Well, he may have to set up his audio and his camera. I don't know if he's joined us before. But unfortunately, I was letting him know why he got kicked. I don't know who kicked him, but it could have been an accident too, because if you're new to Jitsi, you're playing around with the controls, and it's possible somebody just kicked him by accident. But we do run the risk of, anybody could join that had the room name.
Yeah, that's
and then just kick everybody.
That's true.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what we're
like
dealing with here.
It looks like Josh had a glibc upgrade in Gentoo.
Yeah, you
good.
know, we're just updating world.
He's updating his world system.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I ever showed you guys this, but I also have an older Lenovo sitting here. If I can locate it.
Well, while he's grabbing that, I'm just gonna let you guys know that it takes forever to compile a Gen 2 on your Pine phone. I don't recommend doing it.
It's a Lenovo G510 dual core, 4 threads laptop that I was nice enough to be given. So.
And that's the one with the NVIDIA card?
No, it's got an Intel graphics card only. This Legion here, it's a gaming laptop. It has the NVIDIA 2060 in it. So,
is this one the Yoga?
No, John. It's a Legion 5 laptop actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it was about 1,500 something with the warranty and everything, and that's kind of why I've been skeptical to wipe Windows off of it and put straight Linux on it, because I just, I have really shaky hands, and my dad's not very familiar with taking apart newer laptops, nor am I. So we're kind of against doing hardware labor on it on our own. So we'd rather have that warranty, plus
if it's under warranty, I would just let somebody else handle it. There's no reason
plus we have a local place called Tech Restore that manages Lenovo machines for free. It's under warranty, so I don't want to take the chance of blowing Windows off that machine.
No, I wouldn't mess with the warranty. There's no reason to.
Plus it's good for 3 years with accidental protection and all that junk, so we're like, not going to take the chance of screwing with that.
Someone in the chat was asking about how to adjust the position of a Conky on the screen, probably for DTOS, because they're using a laptop, which is 1366 by 768 resolution. Of course, my monitors are 1920 by 1080. What you want to do is you want to go into the Conky config. So go into your home directory /.config/Conky/xmonad/ the name of the Conky, which if you're using Doom 1 is the Doom 1 Conky RC, and then change the you'll find a size setting somewhere in there that's 1920 by, or a position. Let me see. I can find it rather quickly.
Well, it is a fairly large Conky for
you can delete all the. So. You just remove all the key bindings once you know them. You don't need most of that stuff. That's mostly there just for help purposes. But
ultimately, start with just shrinking the font size. That way, it actually all fits.
You can just play with the Conky, the Conky RC. So. Go into .config/Conky/xmonad and look for a file called Doom1 Conky RC, and that's the file you need to adjust. You can and of course there's several other Conkys you could choose to use if you want to choose different color schemes and everything, but you're gonna have to play with the settings. I can't make a universal Conky that just works for everyone, because everyone's going to have different resolutions, different numbers of monitors they're using, and everything. So
can't support them all. The best you can do is put a disclaimer and go like, "Hey, I built this using this."
Well, I was a little surprised because I kind of labeled the whole DTOS script as being basically beta software. It was going to be a little buggy because I was hoping it would keep people away from using it that had never used things like tiling window managers before and Conky before. Like, oh, I know how to fix Conky. You got a lot of people that have never used any of this stuff, right? They don't know anything about Xmonad or the fish shell or Emacs. And then they're asking, basic questions where I thought that warning.
Well, what'd you expect?
Hey, this is beta software would keep people away, but it didn't. Some people, well, I'm like this too. I dive headfirst into something. I ignore warnings, right?
I mean, I could probably argue that's probably half the reason why Arch Linux is so popular these days is because everybody on YouTube that makes YouTube content is using it.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of the reasons why something like Arch gained popularity too is, 4 or 5 years ago, especially, all the people, all the talking heads on YouTube that did Linux content. They didn't talk about Arch. If they talked about Arch, you don't want to use Arch. It's going to break your system. Well, tell a kid that doing something is going to break his system. What's he going to do? He's going to go install the dang thing, right? Like those people made Arch more popular by talking bad about it.
Yeah, seems like the Window is having some real problems getting his stuff to work.
Yeah, one of the things with these video conferencing
apps,
programs, is trying to figure out how to connect your audio and your video.
Yeah. I don't know why he's coming back and forth, but that is just strange.
I'm assuming a lot of that probably has to do with trying to get a camera to be recognized.
That's okay. I mean, it takes a bit of time as a person.
If he's listening, Window, if you're trying to connect a camera or a microphone,
you have to enable it through the browser.
Well, it depends on how you join Jitsi too. You may want to, if you're using the desktop Jitsi client, you may want to check pulse audio volume control for your microphone.
If you install the Flatpak, a lot of distributions actually block the camera microphone access for the Jitsi client.
Yeah, but I think in all of my links, I tell everybody to go grab the app image. But I don't know. I mean, obviously, people could install it a variety of different ways. He raised his hand. He would like to speak. You're allowed to speak, Window.
Yeah, hi, Derek.
Hey.
So I tried to turn on my camera, but I think I have some connection issues.
It's not a problem. I mean, many people join us for these things that don't own a camera or don't care to show themselves on camera. Many people join sometimes and they don't even turn on a mic. They just want to hang out, right? So that's fine. It's not a requirement to have a camera or a microphone for this.
Yeah, okay, that's good. I'll try to turn on the camera next time.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm glad you were able to get the problem straight. I don't know how you got kicked earlier. We saw somebody named Sat.
That's fine, Derek. That's fine.
Yeah.
No issue.
Well, we saw when you got kicked, and we didn't understand who did it. And it's like, oh, well, how did he get kicked? Yeah.
That's
but
fine.
What it's going to be is probably somebody else that was new to Jitsi, and they were playing with the buttons, and they, like if you click on somebody's name, you have a variety of options, like muting them or kicking them out of the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of easy to
remember. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
I can remember. There's an option to allow only for the moderators now.
There is if you self-host your own Jitsi instance.
Yeah, that's the case.
Yeah. We're not running our own server here. Even me, I'm just joined using the desktop client. I'm running the app image, so if I wanted to. I was going to say, if I wanted to host my own Jitsi server, set up my own Jitsi server, then I'd have complete control of it, but there'd be a cost aspect to it. And to use Jitsi for 2 hours a month, it doesn't make any sense for me to spend that kind of money on that. If it becomes an issue where Jitsi gets kind of out of control, people kicking each other out of the room, things like that, we just switch over to a proprietary solution like Zoom. We've used Zoom before for these calls, and Zoom is a good product. It's proprietary software, but at least I have total control over it, and nobody can just come into the room and kick me out. Because right now, you guys can kick me, right? It doesn't see me as being anything special. I'm just like you guys hanging out here.
I in the morning I tried Free Software Foundation instance, but it doesn't allow the streaming or anything like that.
We've got somebody. Xero
Somebody's got some
Linux.
speakers.
Yeah, make sure you're wearing headphones or earbuds when you join if you have a microphone, because otherwise your desktop audio from your speakers is going to bleed into your microphone and it's going to cause crazy feedback.
You hear me?
Yep.
We do hear you.
Xero.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, cool. Hey.
Sorry. You're the one behind the Xerox Linux, right?
Yes, I am.
Oh, cool. Well, you did a hell of a job, man.
Oh, really? I never thought one of you would have tested it. That's a surprise.
Well,
Ben has installed every Linux distribution known to man on his Lenovo ThinkPad.
it's not a ThinkPad, Derek. It's
That's a-
Legion.
It's the Legion. It's technically speaking a ThinkPad because it's the ThinkPad Legion.
It's better than a ThinkPad.
Scale.
It's better than that. Yeah.
It's better than a ThinkPad.
Yeah, it's better than a ThinkPad. So we completely eliminate ThinkPad from the box.
That's
Yeah. Just to let you guys know, I also own a computer store, and I sell mainly Lenovo laptops.
wow.
Well, hey, can I install Gentoo on them? I'm currently working on installing Gentoo on everything else.
Well, if you're suicidal,
I am. Every single computer in my house by the end of next month is going to be running Gentoo.
okay. I created Xero Linux only after having used Linux for 3 months.
Wow.
It took. I used Linux for 3 months, and I was at the time I began using Linux. I was working for Apple.
Yeah.
Oh, God. How
Yeah.
was that, by the way?
Don't tell your boss.
Well, I don't work for Apple anymore.
Okay.
and
How was it at Apple, by the way?
I used to work for Siri, and let me tell you, listening to people request stuff from Siri is kind of crazy.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was crazy, but thank you for using Xero Linux. That comes as a surprise. I
Yeah,
thought just regular users would use it.
Yeah. Well, I actually am the main developer of Storm OS, by the way.
Storm OS, I never tried it, to be frank.
I highly recommend you give it a look because it's a labor of love for anybody who loves Arch.
Yeah, I do love Arch, and just to let you know, I never installed Arch the Arch way. Never did.
I don't feel it that way anymore, to be honest with you.
So we've got DTOS, we got Storm OS, and we got Xero Linux. Is it time for Josh OS?
Yeah, why not?
That's gonna be built from Linux from scratch. And,
is it gonna? Oh,
Derek,
it's gotta be source based.
By the time I'm done with it, Derek, I want you to review it for me.
I'm done with source based distributions.
But don't worry.
I've done a couple of Gentoo install. I've done 2 or 3 on camera. And I don't like doing the Gentoo installs, but eventually, it's like every couple of years, it's like, hey, man, you got to make the video. You got to make the video. And it's like, why? They're all the same. If you watch one Gentoo install.
Video. They finally fixed Harf Buzz.
and something that's going to put a smile on Derek's face, Xero Linux is based on Arco Linux. So
yeah. Yeah, I think you were the one that mentioned Xero Linux to me the other day, and I told you I was going to write it down in my notes, and I've got it written down to eventually download an ISO and check it out. I just haven't gotten around to it.
You still haven't done Storm OS, Derek.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things, Ben. I don't distro hop myself anymore.
I know.
And I don't do a lot of distribution reviews or anything like on camera anymore because I just don't find them that enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I'll eventually get around to it, but it's just one of those things. I got to be in the mood for it.
For that, and we got Ubuntu coming out in about 2 months anyway.
Because once you've taken a look at 200-300 different distributions, like you start realizing, damn, all of these things are the same.
Damn.
Like there's literally no difference between any of them.
Okay, you're right. You're right about that, DT. But there's one thing: Most all the custom distributions these days, they're just a rice, basically.
Most of them, yeah, not all of them, but
Not
most.
all of them, most of them.
Yeah.
That's why I said
Not
most
all of them are.
They're just a rice, including Xero Linux. It was a method for me to get my imagination and my ricing out the door without having to distribute just the rice. I wanted to distribute it all packaged as one, so people get it the way I envisioned it to be. And
and there's nothing wrong with that.
And it uses Vivaldi by default, so you're gonna hate on that.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people, like these distributions that are just a rice, just a skin, right? You just some different theming and wallpaper. I understand many of these people are not putting their distributions out there.
I understand that's exactly
to be
what
popular.
DTOS and Arch
They're just
Linux
creating it for themselves, right? So
that's how it began. That's how everything begins. We do it for ourselves, and we are pushed by the community. Why don't you share? Why don't you share? I want to try it.
Oh, I know. I resisted doing the DTOS script for 2 years. Hey man, why don't you create a script that deploys all your dot files? No, I don't feel like doing that. I don't think that would be fun. I don't want people bugging me with support requests about the script once I put it out there. That's like the opposite of fun to me. Well, after 2 years of just constantly being bombarded with the question, here it is.
Yeah, you did it right by releasing it as a script, because by being a distro maintainer myself, I discovered with great power come great responsibility. So how are you going to support the distro? Like, for example, with the NVIDIA proprietary drivers, that's a nightmare. Well, I
don't know if I did everything right, because I decided I was at least going to maintain my own repository of software for some things, because I like AUR packages. I didn't want to install AUR packages, especially the ones that have to compile. I'm just going to make binaries of my own stuff, have my own repo for a lot of the core packages. And then I've realized that's troublesome at times too, because I have to keep those binary packages up to date. So if they have dependencies that are from the standard Arch repos, things don't get out of line, because occasionally some of my programs in DTOS do break due to dependency issues where Arch updates, but I didn't update my packages.
That's the exact thing I ran into right now, because I like Arco Linux. I have my own repository. And a lot of times I conflict with Arco's repository, because I put something on my repository, then Eric decides to put the same thing on his repository, and sometimes we're not in sync. That causes issues for users.
Well, that's one advantage of having your own distribution rather than a script, is because I have the problem where every Arch-based distribution has their own repository of software.
Yeah.
And there's so many conflicts. I have conflicts with certain packages in Arco Linux. Well, I'll fix those conflicts and then rerun the script, and somebody else, hey, it doesn't work on Endeavor because you have conflicts with Endeavor's packages. And then I've got conflicts with packages on Garuda. And, it's just...
Well, you see, this is why you don't make Arch-based distributions. You make Gentoo-based distributions. Because then when
because there's no other Gentoo-based,
because by the time people finally get the product to find out that the product doesn't work because of a bad dependency.
You know what? You do have a point.
Tell them, hey, you're running a source-based distribution. You signed up for it.
You do have a point there, because like with Debian and with Arch, there's so many Debian-based and Arch-based distributions, you're going to run into conflicts. There's no Gentoo-based distributions, right?
No.
Like if you made a Gentoo-based distribution, congratulations, you're one of about 3, right?
You made a Gentoo-based installation. Congratulations, you made installing Gentoo easier. But that's it.
Well, not necessarily. Some Gentoo-based distributions really don't save you much time.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't. Although I did find with using the Venom Linux ports on LFS, you can actually make your own LFS-based distribution.
Yeah. Well, a lot of independent distributions, even though many of them don't claim they're based on Linux from scratch, that's how a lot of independent distributions kind of get started.
As they start on LFS.
Right. They build everything from the basic tool chain, and once they get to a certain point, and then we're an independent distribution. Well, not really. You read the Linux from scratch manual. Well, I guess I mean, reading a manual, do you have to say you're based on something when it's just basically a handbook?
Yeah, that's kind
Well,
of
that comes around to the question of, is Linux from scratch actually a distribution, or is it just an instruction set?
I would go with instruction set.
They claim it's mainly an educational tool, and like Linux from scratch does not claim to be a distribution, as far as I know of. It's not something that's supposed to be used.
It's an instruction manual, basically.
Right. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's all it is.
I know people try to use it, kind of like the people I say are crazy trying to make BSD a desktop operating system. Same thing with the people that try to make Linux from scratch a real distribution.
I will have to test. I want to test your knowledge a little bit. Has any one of you here used Unix back in the 90s?
Not me. I'm only 30
I used
years
Unix yesterday.
Too old for me. 23, almost 24.
I don't believe so. I mean, I was doing some stuff on servers back in the 90s, but even back then, it was mostly web server stuff. It was Linux back then too.
Yeah, but I got introduced to Unix in '94 when my dad, I was 15 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
My dad got a Silicon Graphics machine to do an ad for, because he used to be a producer for ads, TV ads.
Mm-hmm.
He created a full 3D animated ad for the UAE airport, Abu Dhabi airport, and it was all done on Unix using a software called Gig. And that was my introduction to Unix and the Linux world. And after that, I dabbled a little bit in Linux, but unfortunately, I was too young, so I opted to use Macintosh since then. But I never got into Windows and never loved Windows. So
yeah, well, in '94, it would have been unusual to be using Linux then, because I mean, Linux distributions weren't a thing until late 1993 with the advent of Slackware and Debian, and I think
they were very basic. They were very
basic. So I mean, if you had been using Linux, it'd have been strange, like, because that thing is just getting off the ground at that point. Like, nobody knew about it.
The GUI it was actually yesterday that I ran into an old Unix mainframe at a local bank branch. Like, man, that's kind of retro. Yeah. And right there, they have like the 700-page manual on just the basics on how to use it.
Yeah. What really spurred the growth of Linux, especially in the early days, was once the World Wide Web became really popular in 1996, AOL, and then everybody wanted to create their own websites, and even then, web servers. I mean, it was, Debian and Red Hat, right, and SUSE, right?
They were
offering Windows back then.
There were Windows servers. There were Windows servers.
There are still Windows servers.
Yeah, but nobody uses them. Nobody uses them. Even back then, Windows Server, it wasn't as popular. Like, most people chose the Linux servers back then, mainly because it was free, cost. Right?
It was free.
Right. But that's fine. However people got into Linux, I'm glad they did, because it helped Linux eventually, of course, become what it is now.
The only reason I decided to use Linux full-time last year was simply because I wanted to use something that wasn't Windows and that wasn't Mac. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't use Unix because Unix was so complex, because /user bin, and you had to run the scripts all manually and everything. And I fell in love with KDE. And I've been in love with KDE ever since. So it's a
poor person.
It's a love at first sight.
Poor person. You need to fall in love with Ubuntu Mate so much that you rip all of their work and port it to Gentoo.
I just released an XFCE and then GNOME editions of Xero Linux, and what a mistake it was releasing GNOME. What a mistake that was. I don't know how to pull it off the net now that people have reviewed it.
And it's out there forever.
How many extensions did you set up?
3 or 4.
Okay, that's 3 or 4 too many.
And I'm assuming some of the problems that he's mentioning is the fact that GNOME has so many hard requirements
Yeah,
so
the main problem with GNOME is that extensions break with every single time you run the update command.
It's been that way for years. They're never going to fix it. That has been the complaint literally since 3.0 came out, and then the whole extension thing was created. People complain
because they don't have a stable extension API.
That is true, and the way I installed my extensions in my distro is I grabbed packages from the AUR, packaged them, and put them on my repo, and added them that way. But that's a problem, because when the user goes to the extensions website, it will show that there immediately that there are updates. Really, immediately post install, it will show that updates exist for those extensions, and once they install those updates, it's going to conflict with the AUR package.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Because not only that, the extensions website is out of sync with the AUR and the Arch repository.
That makes sense, yes.
Yeah.
Because the AUR is separate, built by someone completely different than what is on the extension website.
Really,
the problem is
only distro that does like GNOME extensions right is probably honestly Fedora. And that's only because Fedora is the one that basically contributes the most towards GNOME. So
Fedora has extensions.
No, because they built some of the extensions themselves.
Yeah.
Well, the thing too is the whole extension thing is destined to break, because you're never going to have every Linux distribution running the same version of GNOME. So as long as the extensions are not backwards compatible, it's destined to break. It can't not break.
No, that's another thing. With GNOME 41, I noticed some of the packages like Calculator, or I don't know which apps on there, are not even version 41. They're like 40.02 or whatever.
Okay, that's not a problem. That shouldn't be a problem, honestly.
Yeah, I know it shouldn't be a problem, but why isn't everything the same version?
Because that software didn't get a change.
Well, if they didn't change anything, like if it hasn't even got a single commit since the last, I mean, why would you change the version number? That would be weird. I agree.
That would be really weird and really extreme.
Because then you're
because you're upping a version.
Yeah, because then you're kind of lying to people, like you actually did some work to it and you didn't do anything to it.
Now I don't know how to pull it off the internet now that people already reviewed it and stuff. I don't know what to do now. It's stuck online.
Push an update with your own custom-made GNOME extension that basically just comes with a full screen text going like, "Quit using this piece of garbage. I'm sick and tired of it."
Hey, all you can do is just say, "Hey, it was a mistake, and I'm not going to make this desktop version anymore." I mean, big Linux distributions have done this. Many people don't remember this, but Linux Mint used to have 2-3 different versions of Linux Mint that they used to have KDE. They used to have a Fluxbox edition of all things. Crazy, right? An official Fluxbox edition back in the day. Like, they've dropped all of that because it was too much to maintain. They just, hey, XFCE, cinnamon, and mate. That's all you're getting, right?
Fluxbox actually used to be really popular back in the day too.
Well, that's why they made it. That was like 2008, 2009. They were making that and then quickly dropped it. It didn't last that long.
Yeah, same thing. That's what I'm thinking I'm doing. I'm going to create a post on the website saying, GNOME is not that good to maintain. And I'm going to keep the XFCE edition for low-end hardware and KDE for the high-end hardware. That's it.
All right.
Well, the thing with GNOME is just tell people, hey, it's in the Arch repos.
Well,
you can install it, but hey, it's up to you.
Maintaining an XFCE image is basically like no work because they never update anyway.
Exactly.
Now they update. It's about 4 or 5 years between updates, but they do.
No,
update. They update when Debian updates. Okay.
Yeah.
What I mean by maintaining it is maintaining the packages on my own repo and my own Resize, basically. That I used in it. But other than that, I just created my own Polybar. That took a year and a half, but I don't know how to use Polybar, that's why. But other than that, it's
I don't think anybody knows actually how to use Polybar.
Even I don't.
I know a little bit about it, but I've never really found the need to dive too deep into it. A lot of people love Polybar.
It's okay.
But all the window managers I like already come with their own panel. So why would I rip out the panel that ships with it?
So you're the kind of person, if you like something, just keep using it as is.
Well, usually if a window manager ships with a panel, that panel is going to have more functionality than Polybar is going to have with that window manager anyway. So basically you're using an inferior product. But people are like, well, Polybar looks better. And maybe. But if aesthetics is what you're after, maybe.
Yeah, it's
probably the only
aesthetics.
Yeah, probably the only window manager that ships with a terrible bar in comparison to Polybar is probably like DWM.
But you're never going to find a suckless user using Polybar. That's crazy.
There's a patch for it.
Yeah, but that's not. Like DWM has its own panel, i3 has its own panel, Herbsluft has its own panel, Xmonad doesn't have its own panel, but Xmobar might as well be its own panel. Qtile has its own panel, Awesome has its own panel. Really, the only tiling window manager that's popular that doesn't ship with a panel is BSPWM.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's why they use Polybar with it.
Yeah, and everybody uses Polybar with BSPWM, including me.
And the weird part is everybody loves the Polybar, especially because I have a lot of contributors on my server. They were like, "Why don't you kill the XFCE panel and replace it with Polybar?" I was like, "Okay, can you help me rise it?" They were like, "Okay." They helped me rise it, and I'm using it in a virtual machine, and all of a sudden the system tray keeps disappearing on me in the Polybar. So I'm like, "It's not stable. Why did you want me to switch to that?"
You know, people have been doing this as long as I've been using desktop Linux, and I've never understood this, because Polybar's been around forever, is why would you use Polybar with a floating window manager? Polybar does not have a taskbar, so your windows don't get minimized to it. You can't unminimize them. You're using a panel that literally does nothing.
Exactly.
With a floating window manager.
It just
right. It
icons.
does nothing.
It just holds icons for workspaces, the tray, and that's it. And
like I've tried to talk so many open box users into some sense, because I see so many open box users using Polybars. Like, use Tent2 or use the LX panel, the panel out of the LXD desktop environment. Use a real panel that has a taskbar. If it doesn't have a taskbar, it's not a real panel.
It's entirely possible that a lot of these people also just never minimize a window.
Not only that, some people use the dock as well.
Yeah, you could use a dock, I guess, with a floating window manager. I don't hate that idea.
Yeah, I use either Plank or Latte, so everything gets minimized to there, so I don't need a taskbar. So I'm okay with that.
And even though nobody really uses it, OpenBox actually has a dock built into it, and so does XFCE, but they're horrible, so nobody uses them, but both of them do have a dock.
That's why I replaced it immediately with Plank.
Well, really, the XFCE dock is really just like the XFCE panel.
Yeah,
it's quite configured, but you can do it.
Yeah, it's like a panel with some launchers. That's all it is.
And honestly, once you actually get it up and working, it's actually not really all that bad.
But Plank is superior to that.
Well, yeah, Plank works out of the box.
Yeah, Plank is for GTK, like Latte is for KDE.
Yeah. And Latte is not bad. I've installed Latte a few times, checking out Plasma.
No, Derek, no. I know the developer. He's Greek like I am. He breaks it with every update. And trust me when I say it, I have over 1,000 users that keep complaining that Latte keeps disappearing. And in my earlier rises,
now, when you say he breaks it with every update, are you talking about the updates to Latte dock or the updates to Plasma?
I'm talking about the Latte. Okay. Because 1,000 users keep telling me, "Oh, I logged into my desktop and I don't have any panel or dock because I use the Latte dock for panel and dock." I then decided only dock. The panel is KDE panel. That's it. And once you do it only dock, it works without a problem. But as soon as you start adding panels to using the Latte panels, that's where things start collapsing. So it's either Latte or Latte and KDE not being in sync with the updates. It could be either or. I cannot tell. I'm not a developer, so.
Yeah, and we've got some questions in the chat here. Some people are asking, what's Polybar? Polybar is a standalone bar panel that people often use with tiling window managers. Some people are asking, what is Latte? Latte is a dock designed to be used with KDE Plasma. And somebody else was asking about Rofi, the Rofi launcher. Is that a good replacement for dmenu? Either one. They're very similar in function.
Rofi is amazing. I created my own power menu, and it's beautiful. The amount of customizations you can do with Rofi is boundless. It's
but it's the same with dmenu. I mean, you can script dmenu to do anything.
Yesterday, I watched a video on how you can customize dmenu to show suggestive pull down. When you type one word, it will finish it, completion.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And to explain,
and for the most part, your Rofi, whatever script you write for dmenu or Rofi, are interchangeable.
Yeah.
Like you could pull up a dmenu script, and wherever it eventually pipes into dmenu, change the word dmenu to Rofi, and it will work just the same. So really,
they both use drun.
Yeah.
They both use drun, and to explain the latte doc in a simpler manner to people, it's just the Mac-like doc.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good explanation. It's very Mac-like, right?
Yeah. No, because the developer told me he got inspired by Mac, and he has a Mac, and so.
Yeah. Somebody was saying, Rofi has a dmenu mode, meaning it kind of looks like dmenu. Yeah. It's a thin bar at the top. Yeah. Also, dmenu has a patch where you can actually make it centered in the screen, kind of like Rofi is. So you can kind of make them look very similar. The only real difference, dmenu being suckless, you have to patch it.
Yeah.
If you want some extra functionality, which not everybody wants to play with that.
Not everyone wants to do it, but on the trade-off, a dmenu also cannot read like flat packs or even snaps.
Yeah. Or app. Well, it can read app images.
It can read app images.
It can read app images.
Put them in the right place.
Because I have my app images in my user bin directory. Boom.
No, app image launcher.
App image launcher will also place them.
Yeah.
It symlinks them. It doesn't place them. It symlinks, which is what you would have to do if you're using dmenu anyway. But at the same time, app image launcher only works with systemd. And if you're running Gentoo, you're using OpenRC, right? So you can't use the app image launcher.
Gentoo doesn't use R6?
No.
Gentoo uses
OpenRC.
OpenRC.
Gentoo is the project behind OpenRC. Yeah. Are they going to use that? Yeah. No. They're going to use.
Yeah, they've been OpenRC since the beginning of time. That's always been their init system. They refuse to move to anything better.
They just refuse to give you nice things. But thankfully, you can install Gentoo with systemd if you really want to.
If you are a normal person.
Yeah.
If you are a normal person?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only problem with running something that's not systemd is you're going to run into so many situations where software requires systemd. Because people have hard dependencies on it.
Mm-hmm. Ardix. I ran into similar problems on Ardix.
Yeah. Like, there's just no reason, unless you have, like, some real legit reason. And most people don't. Most people are just trying to avoid systemd because it's what the cool kids are doing, right? We're all running Run It and OpenRC. That's our init systems. And then when they can't, do whatever it is they want to do on their computer, then they come crawling back to systemd, again, like a normal person, as Big Pod says.
One of the weirdest questions I get on my server is, does Xero Linux use systemd? I'm like, what doesn't use systemd?
It's Arch Linux, so of course it does.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to avoid systemd and you want to run something reasonable, and not some weird Linux distribution, you're kind of limited to Dev1 or Debian, Ardix for Arch, Gentoo, and Void. You're kind of limited to those 4 distributions.
Yep.
Yeah. And everything else is going to be systemd.
But I think the reason they asked this question is they want to know if I use systemd as a boot manager or grub.
Yeah. Well, probably
Grub is fine.
Grub is what pretty much everybody uses. I mean, does anybody know of a distribution offhand that uses systemd boot?
Yes.
By default?
Yes.
Pop OS. Pop uses
Arca.
systemd boot. Solus uses the Clear Linux boot manager.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't checked out Solus in a while. I've actually run Solus on my laptops
Yeah, Solus has been using the Clear Boot Manager since like 2017 or something like that, and that's actually part of the reason why the distribution boots so fast.
Yeah, I like Solus as like it's clean, it's polished, it works, it doesn't break.
But I
hate the repos.
But it uses GNOME.
Well, it doesn't use GNOME; it uses Budgie.
Yeah, Budgie, but it's a GTK thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, boo-hoo!
But Budgie's
they ship a KDE
Budgie's pretty
image.
good. Yeah, Budgie's not bad. I don't mind Budgie.
Budgie reminds me of the old Mac concepts.
All you have to do is just run sudo eo package tax c remove Budgie, and that completely removes the entire GUI for you on Solus.
Now, Solus's version of Budgie, it's kind of, you know, like a standard Windows kind of setup with a bottom panel and your start menu with a dark theme.
I have to correct chat because somebody on the internet was wrong. Systemd boot does in fact support multi-boot. You just have to set it up manually.
Yes, you have to put the entries yourself, create the entries yourself.
Yep.
Basically, when you boot, let's say Arca Linux, Derek knows that. When you boot Arca Linux to install it, that's what you're presented with, a systemd boot. Yeah. With all the entries created. When me and Eric created when Eric created the systemd boot to add the entries for NVIDIA proprietary drivers or no mode set and all these things, that was done using systemd boot. He created the entries himself manually.
Yeah.
You can even do ButterFS rollbacks with systemd boot.
Yes, you can.
Oh, speaking of the boot screens, what do distributions like Manjaro use? You know how when you do a live ISO of Manjaro and it comes up and asks you, do you want the free drivers, the proprietary drivers?
Uses Grub.
Yeah, that's Grub that does that.
Yeah, Grub, but it's a custom.
Yeah, Grub. but it's not like a normal Grub. Yeah,
it's Grub with a custom config file.
It will even allows you to set the time zone.
It sure does. I forgot about that. You can change the time zone in the live environment. That's weird. I don't.
Yeah, I want to do that, but the problem with Manjaro and Garuda and the likes, when they feel that when they see that you are a distro developer, they don't help much. Like they're afraid of competition or something. But well, I'm just asking because I want to make my distro better.
Well, I don't know much about Garuda, but the Manjaro guys, you know, being having a corporation behind that distribution, you know, they've got a lot going on. I can understand why people that are actually working on Manjaro maybe don't take the time to help a lot of people. You know,
I'm part of a group with Eric and the creator of Calamares, Adrian. There's the developer, the maintainer of the Manjaro Calamares is in there. And he shares everything, and he has shared so much, and he allowed the making Calamares better because he's a QML developer, basically. So he added he helped add and create a lot of modules, nice modules for Calamares. And there's the KOS distribution. I don't know if anybody heard of KOS.
Oh yeah,
it's a pure QML and nothing but Qt distro, and he even added recently a license agreement for NVIDIA proprietary drivers in Calamares. So you have to accept that agreement. Another step the user has to accept to go through in Calamares, because he's right. He doesn't want NVIDIA to cause any issues in case they figure out that we're using proprietary drivers and Linux and stuff. So it's an extra step, but it's a very smart step.
Yeah, but we're past that. I mean, that was, 10, 12 years ago, you couldn't find very many distributions that would actually install proprietary graphics drivers and Wi-Fi drivers out of the box. They wanted you to jump through some hoops. They tell you how, but they couldn't ship it themselves because they were worried about the legal ramifications. But when Ubuntu's been doing it now for 12, 14 years. Yeah, it's been
worked with NVIDIA. Let's be clear. Ubuntu worked with NVIDIA to get the latest version of NVIDIA installation running.
Listen, Ubuntu works with Microsoft as well. That's why they even have the Microsoft repositories somewhere in there, because you notice during an upgrade, sudo apt update and upgrade, you notice something coming from Microsoft. You don't know why.
Probably Skype. There's some proprietary stuff that's not in the Debian repos.
In full-on Ubuntu, there is no Microsoft repositories, unless you set them yourself.
I'll tell you what is coming from Microsoft. It's the signature for secure boot.
That makes sense.
Well, that's because Microsoft made it that way.
Yeah, and Ubuntu Canonical, or I don't know who signed in with Microsoft. So
that is because
they've been doing that with
the main database. There is one by Debian, I believe, but that one is very much less populated. Microsoft maintains the biggest database for that with secure all the signatures for everything for secure boot. So it's the smart choice is to use Microsoft's secure boot database.
That's a problem with Arch, for example. We cannot install Arch successfully with secure boot because Arch does not have secure boot signatures.
Technically, you can, but
it's very difficult.
You need to understand how shim works and get shim to work correctly.
Now,
I've done it before. It's actually completely easy. Just need to make sure shim works.
Now, the fact that Canonical and Red Hat and Microsoft are all part of that coalition not to sue each other over patents.
Yeah, true.
That is the reason why Ubuntu can do some things and Fedora can do some things, but a community distribution, you're not part of that group.
Yeah. Technically, anybody can use that database if you get access to it, but I don't know how to get access to it right now.
You can set up secure boot on our. It's on the wiki.
Yeah, but you have to, like he said, you need access to you need to know how to set up shim and all that stuff.
Shim is pretty easy to set up, isn't it? At least it was the last time I did secure.
I tried it on Xero Linux and it didn't. I tried it because I have Windows 11 and dual boot. I ended up disabling secure boot and running Windows 11 without secure boot.
I remember a couple of years ago, 4 maybe, when I started using Linux on this laptop. I didn't know what I was doing with secure boot. I didn't know it needed to be disabled. Only reason I know secure boot was enabled was when I was installing NVIDIA proprietary drivers. I had to jump through hoops to make it work with secure boot.
Yeah,
that's how most people discovered secure boot. When you if you go buy a machine and you want to put a different operating system on it, and then you realize this isn't working for some reason, that's when you discover
Arch installed. I didn't know secure boot was enabled, so Arch installed secure boot like that. Problem was when I tried to install NVIDIA proprietary drivers, I had to go through the standard secure boot hoops, like setting up a code, then when system reboots, entering set code and all that.
Yeah,
secure boot things. That's when I did that, everything worked normally and secure boot worked normally. Just I didn't know that was a thing before that.
Yeah, like for example, on my distro, I ship it with the latest NVIDIA drivers on the ISO already installed, but that makes it impossible to use on older NVIDIA drivers because the latest ones don't support the older hardware. So I had to create a tool in yet another dialog, to offer the option to users to grab the older drivers from the AUR. So NVIDIA makes our lives a hell of a lot more difficult these days.
Oh, that's crazy how the difference. Somebody that has machines that have both AMD graphics cards and NVIDIA graphics cards.
Oh my God.
It is night and day. The difference. If you want to see the difference between proprietary and open source, have an AMD card and an NVIDIA card and 2 different computers and just update your machine on a regular basis and see how many times that NVIDIA machine breaks on you.
That is true. But
that's why I use Ubuntu. There is no problem like that. I just install it. It works out of the box. Only time once it didn't work, and that was technically my fault.
Derek,
I haven't had a problem with it on Gentoo.
Derek, how many times have you seen on? I know you pop in from time to time to see the news on Arco Linux, but how many times have you seen people reporting the black screen, not booting into the desktop environment?
I don't hang out there much, but I have actually had it myself, where I've updated the system, reboot, and you get the black screen or the kernel panic, and you realize, well, wrong NVIDIA driver again. It installed.
Why I like Ubuntu. Ubuntu has it set up in such a way that if NVIDIA driver doesn't work, you still get desktop.
Yeah, and it's scary to a new user. Now, somebody that's been around Linux, every time I update my machine and I reboot and I get a black screen, I immediately know what the issue is. I know it's a video driver.
Exactly.
But a new user is going to think they just permanently broke their computer, and they're gonna freak out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
On my laptop, one screen works, one doesn't work on NVIDIA products, and all I have to do is install NVIDIA driver once again. That's Ubuntu thing.
Yeah. Well, NVIDIA issues are all over the place. That's why I'm waiting for GPUs to drop in price to uproot my NVIDIA and get an AMD and get it over with. But
I'm never getting off of NVIDIA.
The problem, even if you wanted to right now, is you're going to run into the same problem I had when I was looking for a graphics card for the computer I bought for my home. I had to eventually go with whatever was in stock. You have no choice right now. Unless you want to wait.
Yeah, I'm willing to wait, but because my NVIDIA card is still supported by the latest drivers. But there's another issue with AMD. I noticed a lot of people talk beautiful about AMD with Linux. It's the best graphic card you can have on AMD, but does it have a control panel like NVIDIA does?
Yeah, the NVIDIA control panel, though, kind of sucks, to be fair.
Yeah, but at least it has a control panel.
It does.
AMD doesn't.
It does.
AMD doesn't. It's just install and use as is.
Now there are third-party tools for AMD. Isn't there like some third-party control panels you can install? I know I've played around with like some Radeon settings in the past and like a GUI tool.
Radeon Pro.
Yeah, you can do that. You can also just like get into. You can also just. Get into your kernel configuration and do.
Yeah, normal users are not going to.
That's not going to do that.
When you're talking about normal human beings, not us, but normal human beings, right? They're not going to do all that.
But you have to set up. You have to set up your GPU pass-through somehow.
Yeah.
Well, being a distro maintainer myself, a lot of users want everything to be. Peachy right out of the box.
Yeah, of course.
They want everything to be spoon-fed and on a silver platter, basically.
Of course.
And that's impossible with Linux.
Well, next laptop I'm buying, which is pretty soon, will have just Intel GPU. I decided that.
Well, it's not going to be hardware accelerated then.
It will be.
Yeah, I mean it's.
That will be a pure development machine. So
and honestly, the integrated graphics
or one of those newfangled what are those XE graphics.
Yeah.
Are you waiting around for Intel to get into the dedicated GPU game? Is that
what
you're
the art game?
That I'm waiting for desktop, but for laptop, just give me an Intel GPU. It can be iGPU. It can be
the iGPU. The problem with the iGPU is there's a problem I discovered with PyCom. I had a lot of users.
I use Marco.
Okay, but since I released the XFCE edition, the first release had PyCom enabled. But I discovered that with PyCom enabled by default, some iGPUs don't allow you to get stuck into login loop. You log in, it throws you back to the login screen. You log in, it throws you back to the login screen. So it's kind of like Wayland on NVIDIA.
Well, I'm going
to. Are you shipping? Which Intel driver are you actually shipping?
I'm not the XF86 Intel GPU.
Just use the kernels. Don't even install. Don't even install the Intel driver.
So with the open source, you mean?
Yeah, just go with the open source. Don't even install XF86 Intel.
Okay.
You don't need it.
You don't need it.
It's an option I offer in Calamares. So I tell the users not to check the Intel driver for PyCom.
Yeah, it'll install. It'll still work.
It will work. It will work really well. Intel contributes to kernel.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I knew Intel was putting their driver in the kernel, but I didn't know.
Then what's the need for? Why do we need the Intel GPU driver then?
That's what I was going to
It's
ask.
really just for the older chips.
It's for the older chips. All you need is kernel driver and Mesa.
Yeah, because when you look at documentation for doing any kind of command line installation of Linux, like when it gets to video drivers, if you're installing Xorg, it's always the XF86 Intel. Like it's always part of the instructions. Go ahead, but it's not needed. Okay.
No, we both discovered something new then.
Yeah, I did not know that because if I was going to do a command line installation of, for example, Josh's favorite distribution of Gentoo, I'm always that's going to be one of the packages I install. But I guess I don't need it. I did not know that.
Well,
I mean, on Gentoo, because of the way Portage works, you'll actually want to enable that in your bake.conf, but on Arch Linux, you don't actually need to install the Intel driver.
It's baked into the kernel.
It's baked into the kernel, and the Xorg pulls in everything that's needed anyway.
And AMD also can work on the open source, or it does require
AMD. You will still need to install the driver because you need the DRM keys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about on the Linux Libre kernel? Does anybody happen to know?
Intel is the only. Intel actually works perfectly with the Linux Libre kernel.
Yeah, that's the only. Even if we go wireless, the only wireless that would work probably.
Yeah, well, wireless. Yeah, I wouldn't think any wireless chip would.
Yeah,
Intel one probably works.
When you talk about wireless, that's another issue I'm having with some users. A lot of users when they use VPNs, after a kernel update, the VPN breaks.
Well, I wonder why.
That's probably encryption related. Probably.
Yeah, I'm thinking that because it can't be anything else. I cannot do anything about that myself.
Don't use VPNs. Simple.
Yeah.
Unless you use VPN to sign into a corporate network, otherwise VPNs are just taking your CPU and taking your internet bandwidth. Otherwise, because they do nothing to help your security. They're just their advertisement to entice idiots.
Yeah. If you knew exactly what caused the problem, and it was a fix that would be universal, like the same command would help everybody, you could just do a Pacman hook where every time you update the Linux kernel, for example, you also run this command to fix their VPN problem.
I fixed the VPN problem for the guy, but I instructed him to install the tools related to the VPN he was using. So he installed the tools and that fixed it right up. I just remembered a video you made, Derek, the other day about a let's just say gray area tool that allows you to download videos and music off of the YouTube and the interwebs.
Yeah, I mean it's a gray area, but technically, I mean they're taking music from free platforms that are. I mean, you can go get the music yourself directly from those platforms, so it's not like it's not like people were equating it to like the Pirate Bay or something. It's nothing like that, right? Which is definitely
piracy.
But in the same vein.
But again, it's a different. The Pirate Bay is clearly something different than what.
Yeah. In the same vein, check out Stremio.
Okay.
Stremio is I think on the AUR, but no, it is on the AUR because it's on my own repository. Yeah. But it's an amazing tool. It's an amazing tool. Check it out.
Because a lot of people thought that nuclear is doing things that it's really not. I mean, it's essentially it's taking music from YouTube, for example. Yeah, YouTube didn't get to play you an ad. Oh well, how many people are viewing YouTube with an ad block? I mean, it's almost the
piracy.
I mean, really, it's almost the exact same thing we're talking about. But one you have no problem with, but the other people lose their minds.
I have a problem with that. I have a problem with people using ad block to view anything on internet. I have a problem.
I do too, because I've mentioned this on camera before. I started the YouTube channel. I never used ad block because I was one of those people that depended on ad revenue for different things I've done on the internet over the years, whether it be building websites, writing articles, now making videos that are, I've got ads that,
Derek,
but I understand why people.
There's a difference when you put your an ad yourself, when you read an ad yourself of a product. I sit through these. These I don't have a problem with, but because I am from Lebanon, okay, I am from an area that doesn't block anything. So, and the ISPs are not, let's say, they're gray area ISPs. I get offered ads from the UK, ads from Netherlands, ads from I don't know where that don't interest my location. So I have no choice but to block them because I cannot get any of those.
Right. Yeah.
So, but when you read through,
well, that's a problem.
I can sit through it.
That is not problem with ISP. Okay. It's problem with how targeting works, and because simply speaking, they don't have ads for that area.
Right. It's a problem with the ad network itself. Yeah. It's Google AdSense. Most of the large corporations buying these big, massive ads that are going to run, millions of times on the internet. Most of these are large corporations, probably in the US or Europe. So, for example, there's not a lot of ads targeted to people in India, for example, right? And if they were, they're selling products that are not very expensive. So the ads are going to be dirt cheap. You're going to get paid practically nothing for those ads. It's just a difference that I don't know if there's a solution for that. That's just the way ad networks work.
I'll give you an example. I get offered ads to buy stuff from Tesco. Tesco is in Ireland.
Right.
Plus the fact that they offer me stuff to buy from the US, Best Buy and Newegg and stuff. I cannot. I don't have access to these. I cannot order anything online currently because we're going through a shitstorm of an economical crisis right now. So they blocked online purchases. If I use my card, my local card online, is going to be declined immediately. So those ads become bothersome. So they give me no choice but to block them. But if you read through an ad yourself and you're talking about something that's useful to you, I get interested. I research it in case I travel to buy it abroad. But
now the problem,
honestly,
though,
don't care about that.
Yeah, the problem with a proprietary platform like YouTube, for example, is they're only really going to make money one of two ways, and the ad way is definitely the preferred way, because the only other way they could do it is lock everything behind a paywall, and we're just going to charge you for everything, and that's not fair to people either, because people in different parts of the world are not going to value money the same way.
Yeah. So let's be clear here. Running YouTube, running a video platform is so expensive. We can't fathom how expensive it is. None of us here can. It's
billions. Billions of dollars a year just to run those servers. Yeah,
like
there's no question.
Breaks even.
I think YouTube doesn't break even. I think
probably now, probably.
Maybe, barely. As far as I know, even a couple of years ago they didn't. They were still bleeding money from YouTube. Let's be clear on that.
Yeah.
One thing, I do run AdBlock. I don't run like the typical browser extension AdBlock though. I run Pi-hole, and my Pi-hole block list has like over 6 million entries on it. And the reasoning why is because my internet connection is actually really, really terrible. I come to you guys through a DSL connection. My upload speed is literally 2 megabytes per second. And if
you need Starlink.
Yeah,
I do need
that's
Starlink,
where I was going to go with it
but
too.
Starlink's not available in my area yet, but I am on that list
soon.
Yeah, it's coming, I hope. But anyways, if I disable Pi-hole, I cannot run a video feed on this Jitsi call. It's too much bandwidth.
I agree with you because I'm in the same boat. My upload speed is 2 megabits per second, and download speed is like 5. But and I'm on an ADSL as well.
Yeah,
with capped internet, 20 gigabytes a day.
But yeah, like really though, when it comes down to like advertisements, I don't necessarily mind them. Yeah. The only time like ads really cause me like a problem is like, say I'm watching YouTube and then I get a mid-roll YouTube ad going like, "Are you sick and tired of getting interruptions? Subscribe to YouTube Premium." And I'm like,
but here's how I've always dealt with this, because I'm kind of like Big Pod. I don't mind ads. I wouldn't block ads. The only reason I block ads for the YouTube channel is I can't have an ad playing in the middle of my video, right? So I have to, right, because it could have some music in it. Yeah, it could cause me major problems. So I block ads on my videos. But the way I've always dealt with it is if I go to a website, maybe it's a news site that I like to read, and if they start bombarding me with just ridiculous ads, full page ads, pop-up, pop-unders, whatever it happens to be, I'm just not going to go back to that site. I'm going to pick a different site to consume. Same thing with video platforms and audio platforms. If they get too egregious, just go find somewhere else to consume that same content, because chances are you're going to be able to find that exact same thing you were after on a different site.
When there's only one time when it's right to block ads is when you're browsing questionable websites.
Well, I would say you probably, if you're worried about things like that, you probably shouldn't be on that site if you're worried about security things.
Yeah, but
because the people that get hacked, their computer gets taken over. Well, what was the last thing you were doing? 99 times out of 100, they were on a porn site or a gaming site. Like, you don't need that hack for that game. You're right. You don't need that auto aim for your first person shooter. Don't download that thing to your computer.
Well, how I deal with ads, I block them in here. I just don't see them. Simple as that. They can be ads all over the screen. My brain will disregard them automatically.
Yeah.
I disagree.
Like, the ad break is also pretty convenient, especially like during a live stream, because then you're kind of encouraged just to get up and walk away from the computer too.
Yeah, true, but but when you go to for example, we have local news websites. I go to my local news website. They pop all over the place, ads like that. Well, I have to block these ads because I can't read the actual article I need to get to, because there's so many pop-up ads and pop-unders and stuff like that, and for unrelated stuff that don't exist in the country even.
One of the things I love about command line applications is I never have to deal with an ad, because all this stuff runs JavaScript. Like, if you view a web page in a terminal web browser, you're never going to see that ad. If you listen to a podcast in a terminal podcast client, you don't have to worry about seeing that ad, that graphical ad, that image ad.
That's an ingenious way of dealing with it without affecting the creators. But I have to visit websites. It has to be visual in front of me. If it's command line, for me, it's kind of difficult. Although,
with audio video content, a lot of people can just do it at a command line. I can understand, like, reading articles and wikis. Yeah, not everybody's going to want to do that in the terminal. You're going to go.
By the way, I just started discovering Doom Emacs because of you.
Yeah, how you liking it?
Still difficult.
It is at first. That's why I asked.
It's been only 48 hours. Give me some time.
Oh yeah. Well, that's still new to you. I mean,
I just
like the name because my favorite game of all time is Doom.
Yeah.
Speaking of Doom Emacs, I finally figured out how to create a new file in DRED yesterday, after using Doom Emacs for about 2 months. I never figured it out.
well, it's modal, just like Vim.
Yeah.
So you could actually hit colon to get into command mode.
That's
and then W to write, and then a name of a document that doesn't exist, and you just that's weird. Like, because it works the same way in Vim. I know you know how to use Vim.
Actually, no. I know how to get around in Vim, but I don't actually know Vim deep down, because it's just like prior to like a year ago, I never particularly cared.
So Derek, I have a question on Emacs.
Yeah.
Can you have 2 instances of Emacs running at the same time? So if you're a Go developer and you're say a Rust developer, can you have them running at the same time? Because
you're talking about what, with a different config, or
yes.
You can. There are ways to do that. I haven't done it myself, but I know it's possible.
I ran 2 of them, but they use the same dot file, so you can't separate configuration.
Well, you would have to launch it with a specific command at the command line, but you can specify configs for Emacs. For example, even though my Emacs has a config, if I do Emacs space -Q, I know at the command line, it'll ignore my config and just launch vanilla GNU Emacs.
Okay.
And I know you can specify configs, so I know you can.
You can. Okay, that answers it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If you go through man Doom Emacs or the manual pages, it will give you the flag to. I believe there's a flag that shows you how to use a separate config file.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, and another thing you can always do is you can actually create 2 different Emacs frames, 2 Emacs windows, and do different things in each, like all the minor modes. You can turn the ones off in one window that you don't need and leave them running in another. Yeah. So you can have different things going on in each.
I'm currently in the process of including a script that will install Doom Emacs in my YAD tool for my distros, but it's not as easy as getting the package and putting it on my repo or something like that. It requires a custom script, and I'm rewatching the video that you created for installing Doom Emacs. That's what I'm going through just to get the commands in the script. And I will tell users that it might fail the first time or the second time. It will actually eventually succeed. Because I noticed in your video that it failed for you as well for the first time, where you were running it to install it through Dtos.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what caused that failure. And I still don't know what caused that failure. What I eventually did is I changed the way it was written in Dtos. I changed some of the commands. Let me see if I can pull that up, because it might give you an idea of...
I git cloned your Dtos. I'm going through it a little bit just to get to the Doom Emacs script, and I will create my own script from that. Because yet another dialog just is a bash script. It's just a button to launch a bash script.
Yeah.
Just to update everybody as to why it's taking so long to update Gen 2. This is the first time I'm updating World, and I'm updating straight to the testing repositories, not the stable repositories. That's why I'm still compiling.
You went to the testing immediately. So.
Yep.
Well, of course.
It's the best time to do it because it's when your system is most minimal.
I respect that. Because I'll give you an example. My iPhone and my MacBook have never seen a stable OS. They've always been on beta. So yeah, I understand that. I respect that. And I'm still using the same beta profile that I got from while working for Apple. Usually I should have deleted it when I left. But I didn't tell them that I didn't delete it, so I'm still using it. And it's still valid. It was given to me for free because I was an employee there, but they didn't stop it. They didn't block it, so I'm still using it until it dies.
Let's keep it, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I was doing something different installing Doom Emacs in the Dtos script, but it looks like I'm still just doing the exact commands from Doom Emacs's GitHub, which is just cloning the repository
and running the
running the install script. And
don't you wish?
The only thing I do is I do a sync, a Doom sync at the end too, just because I realized that sometimes helped solve the problem where when after you install and try to launch Emacs, it doesn't want to launch the first time. Sometimes the sync helps with that, but not all the time.
The best part of installing it that way is like ZSH, because I have a script installed ZSH. If you install it through the from source, compile it, install it from source, it will auto update itself. And same thing with Doom Emacs. It will automatically, if you set it the setting to true, it will automatically synchronize with the GitHub and update. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to maintain it or anything. Every time you launch it, it will check for an update, and if there's one, it will auto-apply it. It will always be in sync with GitHub.
Right.
Yeah, that's... I'm discovering so many things. Here's the reason why I created Xero Linux. Not only for me, because I have a motto, if you can't find the right distro for you, build it. And by doing so, I have discovered so many things. Yesterday, I discovered by creating my own package, my own rice package, that I recently changed the name of the package. It's no longer Xero Linux Rice. It's now KDE Rice. I was looking for a way to replace the Xero Linux Rice with this new package without having the user do anything. I discovered there was a thing in the PKG build. It's called replace. Replaces equals which package you wanted to replace. It will automatically uninstall the old one and install the new one.
Yeah.
I'm discovering so many things. That's the best part of Linux. And I was giddy like a kid when I started discovering those new things in the past few days. Before I was using just the Arco Linux ALCI script as they came. But now as I'm building stuff as I need them and I'm discovering them, it's like a kid discovering a brand new toy.
Well, it's Linux. You're going to find new stuff every day if you're looking. And now that you're playing around with Emacs, oh my goodness. Like literally, you could discover something new with it forever. But once you discover org mode, just org mode will keep you occupied for the rest of your life, like learning stuff about that.
I recently in Doom Emacs, I just discovered the plugins. When you go to the plugins to install plugins for Doom Emacs, there's so many out there, and there's so many that are also more customizable than Doom Emacs itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's really all Doom Emacs is, and the great thing about it is, it's not really a bloated system. All they've done is they've simplified Emacs package management, which can be a little tricky if you don't know what you're doing. The way they've set it up by having that packages.el file, you just go throw your package names you want in that, and it automatically installs them for you. Piece of cake. Like, it's so much simpler than going in a config file and trying to add everything in that config. And then you've got to install some kind of package framework to install that stuff. You don't have to do that with Doom Emacs. They've already done it all for you.
Yeah, that's the best part. That's the best part of Doom Emacs. But me being used to Nano, not Vim, Nano is so limited compared to Vim. Because Vim has NeoVim and other forks and stuff like that extend Vim. Once I'm done with Doom Emacs, I want to start playing around with Vim because Nano.
Well, I mean, if you know Evil Mode, or I'm assuming you're doing Evil Mode in Doom Emacs.
Yeah,
you know how to use Vim. It's the same. Evil Mode is just Vim. It's a Vim emulation. Yeah. So you already know. If you know Vim, you know Evil Mode. If you know Evil Mode, you know Vim. It's the same.
Oh, okay.
And Nano, the reason Nano is so limited is because the name Nano, right? It's not trying to be.
It's just a text editor,
right? It's
just a basic text editor.
Yeah.
Except it's internal instead of being a GUI.
That's all you need really for a terminal. Text editor is text editor.
If you're just making a quick edit, keep in mind that was especially an improvement over the old Ed text editor, ED. Back in the day, like Nano is such an improvement over that thing.
I can see the pain in your eyes when you were working on that Ed video.
Well, people have been asking about that one for a while, and I kind of know how to get around in Ed if I need to. I don't use it.
Do you really need to though?
People seem to think that they might have to use it at some point. So I'm glad I made the video just to put it out there because you're not going to find much content about it. And people do have questions about it. It's like, here it is. It's basically a predecessor to grep and sed. It's essentially all it is. It's like, it's the father of grep and sed. And that's how those tools eventually came about. Is grep was essentially just something people typed in the Ed text editor. They literally typed G/RE, a regular expression, not necessarily RE/P for print. That's how, hey, we do that all the time in Ed. Why don't we just make a tool that does that?
And another good thing about the Doom Emacs is that it offers a lot of eye candy for a person like me who loves the eye candy.
Well, it's a GUI application, right? So that's the advantage. With a GUI tool, you can do anything graphically. You can have images and video and variable font sizes and things that are impossible in a terminal. A terminal can't do.
Exactly, and especially that the tagline of Xero Linux is "an eye candy lover's wet dream."
Well, I will definitely take a look at Xero Linux at some point. I want to respond to Joe Panico in the chat. He says, "Hey there, Derek. I really appreciated your video on terminal aliases. as I commented in the video, there was something I'd never given any thought to. Yeah, I think a lot of people that use Linux, even more advanced users of Linux, I see a lot of people that have never created a shell alias. Many of them, for whatever reason, don't know they exist. And I think once you get into it, it's a weird kind of rabbit hole. Like once you start playing with aliases, the next thing you know, you're going to have 50 of them, 100 of them. Like you're going to just, at night, you're going to dream about that new bash alias that's going to save you so much time, right?
Fish functions.
Aliases.
I just wrote my 4,626 alias.
Right. And somebody was asking, mentioned functions. That's the other thing is eventually once you learn how to write functions in Bash, ZSH, Fish, you can add those to those configs, and those are even more powerful. They involve a little more work, though.
Yeah. But aliases are bread, especially for a distro maintainer, it's our bread and butter. Now, instead of typing 5 commands to build the distro, I just type one single alias. It will do 5 different commands at the same time.
Right.
That's the best part. It's a powerful tool. It's a super powerful tool. Plus, I just wanted to tell you that your alias video is part of the website, part of the forum now.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I put it for new. There's a section called Linux University. I attribute that name I credit that name to Eric. But Linux University, there's a section that I put all the guides that I find useful. Your guides, video guides from you, from Eric, from Tech Hut, from everyone. I'm not a YouTuber. I don't know how to make YouTube videos. I'm a very bad talker on video, so I use other people's videos to post on and that brings traffic to your channels. It's a two-way win-win situation.
Right. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Aliases, to me, is the most powerful tool of Linux. If you don't know how to create aliases, you're gonna spend half your life typing commands and turn off.
I use aliases in Nix. I use at the command line NIP Nix install package, NUG Nix upgrade, and NGC and Nix garbage collect. So I use them all over the place in Nix. So
I know aliases. I just don't use them. It is a lot easier for me to write the command once and then just use it over and over again using the arrow keys.
I think the biggest reason a lot of people first get into aliases, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, is the need to not have to type sudo in front of so many commands. It's usually, you know what, I'm tired of typing sudo name of the command. I'm just going to alias that command to sudo command, right? So, just so I don't have to type sudo anymore.
You can do the bad thing and just log in as root.
Run a root shell.
Right. Oh, you know what? I almost did that on video the other day when I was doing the sudo apt update, sudo apt upgrade command for Ubuntu. I was like, yeah, just shorten it to this. I almost tacked on like the yes command to it just so I didn't have to answer the yes or no question. I was like, no, because Linus Tech Tips, I can't do that. I'm not putting yes on anything.
Well, for what I do, I actually cannot do a lot of aliases because of how much stuff I need to vary between runs. So arrow up and down is the most useful thing ever.
And
history.
Yeah, in Fish, you don't even have to do the arrows. Yeah, that's the weird thing because that command, that video I did the other day, of course, was about Bash. But in Fish, you don't even arrow up. You just start typing the command you want to type, and it's going to complete it for you.
Yeah,
that saves you from even worrying about the history.
And if I have something that I need
the history,
and if it's something that I need to, like the same every time, I'm gonna probably add it to my GUI tool that has a button, and I just click a button and it runs it for me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I do. If it's something I know I'm going to run all the time, I probably make a D-menu script for it. Honestly, that's usually like the repetitive task. Yeah, I'm just going to make a GUI tool for it.
I do that. I do that with YAD. But speaking of root, when I want to log into the system with root in the shell with root, I just type Yoda. Because I'm a Star Wars fan. Yoda, it's done.
Yeah, somebody gave me, because I asked for your favorite Bash aliases on that video, and I got a lot of good suggestions. One of them was just an alias YOLO equals sudo. No, you only live once.
I have
push force check.
I have
master.
one bash script that is living on every system. I'm not gonna tell you what is the name, but it has one single command in it. rm-rf.
Right, of course. I already know. Yeah. I already know where.
Technically, it's actually on one key. So technically, I can delete my system in matter of minutes.
Yeah.
I have a bash script I just call kernel, and it changes my directory into my kernel source and immediately calls make menu config.
Yeah, and in the chat, Joe was saying that Matthew Moore years ago did a video on how to do a script to bypass sudo, but it's quite risky. Yeah, and the other thing you can do is you can actually make your home user not have to enter a password for sudo.
Yeah.
I don't recommend that, but it's in the config. But if you do that, just know you're setting yourself up for disaster at some point.
Because just so you know, you signed up for it.
Right.
Passwordless root. Passwordless root. Yeah.
Technically speaking, root is when you install sudo, root becomes just a normal user that has, because of sudo, certain privileges.
Yeah. But for me, for building Xero Linux, it's called. I have an alias called BTS. Build that shit.
I like it. Well, guys, we've got just a few minutes here before the end of the 2 hours, and we've got a few people here, so let's all take a minute to give a last word. Big Pie, send us out with something brilliant, something deep, something provocative.
No pressure.
Well, someone broke their own packages on npm.
He did that on purpose, though.
On purpose, yes. 2 packages by adding basically code that makes your programs break. And that's why he did that, because nobody wanted to give him money for his hard work.
Right.
So, open source.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
Don't forget something else. Log4j. Whoever had to deal with that, I salute you.
All right, Big Bob, appreciate it. Jean-Michel, do you have any last words for us?
You're muted, Jean-Michel.
Oh, you're muted, Jean-Michel. I don't know.
I think he has a mic or something.
Yeah, I had a mic mute.
Okay.
So I don't have really anything special, but first I want to thank you all. It was a really interesting stuff. So the decision I made during the discussion is, until now I was not willing to try, but now I think until the next chat, I will try to install Dtos.
Yeah, I can't promise you there won't be some issues with it, because I haven't really kept up with it. I mean, I've tried to keep up with some of it, but it's one of those things I can't install the dang thing every day, right? I can't test it out, make sure if somebody downloads it today and does a fresh install, is it going to work? Until somebody tells me, hey, it's broken, I don't. And even then, I get an email notification, hey, DTOS is broken. Well, if I'm not near a computer, if I'm out in town, somewhere, or out in the woods fishing, or something like that, I ain't fixing it, right? It can wait. So be prepared. But I hope it works. I think you'll be okay with it, because you know enough about Linux. Even if you do run into any problems, it'll be minor stuff that you'll be fine with.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm still quite sure I will make myself much more mistake than you have in the script.
Well, thank you, Jean-Michel. Josh, you got any last words before we go?
Yeah, I do have some last words here. For one thing, I'm still working on compiling Gen 2. We are currently at the kernel here. We're doing bootloader next. But anyways,
well, the big kernel should compile on that machine in what, 2.5, 3 hours?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, guys, Just remember, it's free and open source software. You can do whatever you want, even if you make everybody else question your choices for you.
Josh, are you
we
still?
don't question your choices. We question your sanity.
That too.
Josh, are you still looking for ECC DDR3 RAM?
I could still use some.
Okay, I found a site, Craigslist in Vancouver, Canada. He's got 16 gigs for $30 or $20 for 18 gigs. He has a bunch of it. I can direct you to the site. I checked him twice. He'll email to the States.
That would be awesome.
So Josh is going to buy all that RAM he can because that's a good price on that.
Well, I got
That's
24
Canadian
open ports, so that's 24 sticks I can buy.
Yeah.
That's Canadian prices too, so it's probably 2/3 of the cost to you.
Right.
Probably.
Okay, so if you go to do a search on Craigslist Vancouver, and you come up with the site, you should come up with the site.
I had to take a moment to figure out.
He'll work that out. Yeah. But while he's searching for the Craigslist, Murray, give us the last word.
Okay, several things. I found a package called Nativefire, which takes a web page and makes a single application out of it using, well, I forgot, but it'll take say the web. Geez, I'm getting stuck here. It'll take something like the James Webb page and make a home page of it. And
when you say Nativefire, or is it Native Fire FIER or
yes,
FIRE?
NATIVE
Okay.
FIER.
I was searching for the wrong thing. Okay.
Nativefire, yeah. It takes the web page and creates it into into an app.
I'm going to post a link in the YouTube chat for everyone that is interested.
It's
all right.
It creates it in Electron, I believe.
Yes, it is. It's 150 megabytes. I guess the minimum Electron size is 150 megabytes, but it works well. It'll create. I've got a desktop icon now for the.
But the problem with that is you will end up with a lot of Electron. Like for me, for example, I use a lot of WhatsApp Nativefire, AirDroid Nativefire. I ended up with 16 different versions of Electron.
Yeah, but there's no real way around that at some point.
Yeah,
if you deal with a lot of Electron apps, I mean,
there's a way to hide the Electron part and keep just the app shortcut. But yeah.
What else, Murray?
I found a site called Are Optical Computers the Future YouTube site. It's quite good. It's done by an engineer who actually works with optical. And he points out how the signal degrades in fiber optics in 10 kilometers. It degrades in 10 meters in copper. And then you can do things like multiplex, red, blue, green, yellow. So you can get 4 times the throughput on fiber. And he goes through how they're using optical technology in motherboards in experimental in labs. So it's quite good. It's about an hour video.
Yeah, I'm actually going to post the link to that YouTube video in the YouTube chat.
Eric, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
His mic actually is muted, chat.
All right. So I'm going to post the link.
So, Josh, did you find the site yet?
Yeah, I already found it. I just shot off the email.
I emailed him twice and he responded right away. So he's sounds like a pretty good character.
Yep. The Nextcloud video conference feature is the same thing that powers our voice communication. It's all Jitsi Meet because it's the only actual open source solution left for video conferencing.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's why it's built into Nextcloud.
Mm-hmm. But it's so similar. It's so similar to Zoom.
Yeah, it is. Just missing some moderation features. It really needs. Anything else for us, Murray? Before we go,
one last thing. I've been using Elixir and comparing to Python, and I found in Python, I created 100 million integer list, so it was 3.5 gigs. So if you start using that, and then you're finished with that variable, and you want to free it up. You can in Python, you can say L equals none and the variable is freed, and it has real-time garbage collect. So a few seconds later after you free it, that memory is restored. to your system. I didn't know that Python had real-time garbage collection, so that was kind of interesting on it. So
wow, I mean, I would never have thought about testing it with a huge number like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And you can't do it in Elixir. Elixir just stays on the heap until your process finishes.
Wow. All right.
Okay, so that's the last one. Thanks, guys.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us, Murray. Stefan, give us the last word, sir.
Well, thanks everyone for the interesting discussion. I'm still afraid to actually install and compile a Gen 2. Though I see the appeal that Josh is having. But yeah,
just do it in a virtual machine. There's no reason to.
Yeah. But
because if you do it on physical hardware and it fails,
3% performance difference. It's faster on real hardware.
It's not.
It's Gen 2. It takes so long that it actually makes a difference.
It made a difference 20 years ago or 30 years ago. When you had 486 processors, maybe there was a difference. Today, it doesn't make any difference.
No, I want to do it for the appeal. I also spun up a OpenBSD VM to play around with, just to
cool.
Gotta have a tease. I still haven't figured out to install a proper window manager, but we're getting there at some point.
I would go full suckless on OpenBSD just to make my life easier.
It's honestly true because the suckless software actually does work the best.
Yeah, because it's going to compile just fine. You ain't got to worry about anything. You don't have to even worry about package managers or anything. You just go download it from suckless.org, compile it, boom, you're done.
I'll try to port that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and let's go ahead and have another nice month full of shenanigans, I'd say. Thank you very much, and thumbs up.
Well, thanks for being with us. And Xero Linux, give us the last word.
Don't worry about getting into Linux. It's easy to fix, and please get away from Windows, please.
I wasn't sure where he was going with that when he started. Don't worry about Linux. I was like, oh, this is going to be a negative comment.
No, don't worry about Linux, but please don't stick to Windows. Windows is just going to keep your life misery, make your life a misery. With that, thank you guys, and thank you, Derek, for making awesome videos as always.
Yeah, and leave us a link if you got it to your distribution, so I can add it to the YouTube link. You don't have permission to add it to the YouTube chat, but you can add it here in Jitsi.
Where I only have your video chat window. I don't.
XeroLinux.xyz, right?
If you go to the bottom, do you have a control panel with your mic and camera and all that? You should see like a little dialog box that says Open Chat.
Nope, it doesn't show. It just shows my mic, my video, and a Hangout button.
Well, let's see if I can find the link through a quick Google search. And
never
mind.
XeroLinux XYZ.
Josh has posted it here.
Yep.
So I will go ahead and post that in the YouTube chat. He's already posted in the YouTube chat too. All right. So
guys,
everybody go check out.
Everybody right now, let's just all go download it at once to see if we can crash a download server.
Yeah,
it's SourceForge, so I don't care.
I was about to say it's probably not as everybody uses a seed host and SourceForge.
I tried seed host. They didn't accept me for some reason.
Really? Oh, that's unfortunate. You know what? I'm going to boycott seed hosts from now on because.
Right. And guys, keep on watching Derek's videos. He makes very informational videos. I learn from them as well. I love DTOS. You went through the crashes, the bumps, and everything in between to show it off, and you didn't hide anything. You didn't edit out any part of it. So that takes balls.
I appreciate that. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah. Jean-Michel, he's going to try DTOS and Xero Linux and then get back to us next month.
You try it too, Derek.
I'm definitely going to try it.
It's Arco at the base.
It's on the to-do list. I'm going to get around to it at some point.
By the way, Derek, I meant to ask you, since you are a KVM veteran, and I have your video on my forum as well, but you didn't mention the part that matters to me the most. How do you share clipboard between the host and the VM?
You kind of can't.
I didn't even try because I don't use clipboards typically.
No, because I copy links from the main host. I copy links from the host, and I will need to post them in the VM. I can't.
It should work. It should work. If what VM type you use?
I use KVM.
On Linux it should work.
It's not working. I copy from the host. I try to paste.
You use Vert Manager. Or what do you use?
I would what?
Do you use Vert Manager?
Yeah, Vert Manager, correct.
Then it should work.
It's not working. It only pastes what I have. It only pastes what I have copied from within the VM itself.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work out of the box. I know that because.
Yeah, I don't know how to add it. I thought
I've never tried.
I think you might need. If it doesn't work, there is either Red Hat has the software or something like that. I believe.
Yeah, because I copy and I want to drag stuff and drop stuff to the VM from the host. I have to install Samba, enable Samba, and access the host.
Yeah, I made a quick Google search on how to enable the clipboard and KVM. It does return a lot of articles, so apparently it is.
There's a way related to Spice and VNC, but it's not there in KVM anymore. The display VNC is no longer there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in a pinch, you can always share a file. I know that's not the ideal way, but you could just write it to a file that's shared between the host machine and the VM, and that could be your clipboard.
You could also just SSH.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what the clipboard is anyway. It's just, stuff's getting written to a file, overwritten.
The way
you could create your own clipboard that way, I guess.
The way I do it now, you're going to laugh, is I install Telegram on the VM, and in Telegram, there's a feature called Saved Messages.
Yep.
It sends it to no one. It's notes that you want to keep to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that with any chat client. I mean, you could bring up an IRC client and just post it on the host machine and then get it in the VM.
Yeah, that's how I'm doing it now because KVM because in VBox it works bidirectional clipboard, but I don't know why in KVM it doesn't exist.
Well,
anyway.
I appreciate you hanging out with us, Commander Angry. I don't know if we've heard from him.
Nope.
See if he has it. All right. Do you have any last words to say before we go?
No, not really, actually. It's been fun hanging out, listening to everybody chat about this stuff. There's a couple of things that I was going to bring up earlier regarding i915 and IWO Wi-Fi, but things had moved on, so I'm like, no big deal.
All right. Yeah, with these guys, if they get started talking and they talk forever, sometimes you just have to interrupt them and just tell them, shut up, I got something to say. They don't mind, though. So Josh is used to, people having to tell him, hey, be quiet. So just when he gets on a rant about Gen 2, just shut him down.
Fair enough.
Well, you can tell me to shut up. I can take it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. And George, are you there, sir?
I am. I showed up late, but I was listening earlier, and been a great time as usual. And I hope everybody had a good start to the year, and I hope it goes swimmingly the rest.
Yeah, so far so good. So, well, thank you, George, for hanging out. And of course, I need to give a last word. I want to thank everybody in the YouTube chat. You guys were awesome. Your questions and comments, always appreciated. And of course, I need to thank you guys, the patrons that hung out with me.